Well, it's Wednesday, and it's time for Wednesday Wonderings. And we've been taking on the miracles of Jesus. And today we're in John chapter 5, beginning at verse 2. And this is a miracle of a man who was infirm, paralyzed for 38 years.
38, yep.
Yeah. So let's dig into it. And I'll start us out in reading part of it. Now there is in Jerusalem, near the sheep gate, a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, which is, excuse me, I said Bethesda, but it's
Bethesda, yeah.
Bethesda.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those words that I have learned wrong, even though we have a place, Lutheran Church Missouri Synod has a home.
Yeah, the Bethesda home.
Bethesda home.
Yeah.
So Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" All right, let's stop here. First of all, this miracle is only found in the Gospel of John. John seemed to concentrate on miracles in Jerusalem, whereas Matthew, Mark, and Luke, they concentrated in miracles in Galilee. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, it talks about these colonnades, and this is an area where it's a covered like area, and there's just people that are suffering there. Mm-hmm. You can almost, it's like an outdoor hospital. I mean, and you know, there's 3 different types of people, and the NIV said, what was it? It wasn't invalid. And then the 3 types of people in verse 3, what was the word that was used in the NIV?
Yeah, a great number of people used the blind, the lame, and the paralyzed.
Yeah, and the blind, lame, and paralyzed, but prior, the ESV says invalid too. And, you know, so you have blind, lame, paralyzed. These are really people
helpless
hard
people.
In their luck. There's nobody to help them. There may be somebody trying to care for them, but it doesn't seem like it. It's just almost people drop them there and they stay there. And so 38 years.
30, yeah. So Jesus came to this place, backing up a little bit, because of a feast. And now, which one feast was it? Was it the feast of Passover, or was it feast of booths? We're not told here.
Yeah.
But all Jews recognize these great feasts, and Jesus recognized them as well.
Yeah.
And they entered through the sheep gate. Now, this is a small opening north wall of the temple where the sheep were washed and cleaned. So these colonnades it was like a porch.
Yes. Yeah. Right. And they just were there. And they were there, it appears, all the time, you know.
Bethesda actually means house of mercy.
Yeah, or I also found house of grace. I saw both of those, house of grace, house of mercy. And so, you know, that's a great name.
So a man paralyzed for 38 years, let's just imagine that. He would have atrophied legs.
Absolutely.
There would be no muscle.
Right.
There would be, if you've ever known someone with paralyzed legs for a long, long time, you know, it's just, they're withered. They're not exercised.
No, severe discomfort. They need massaging, and they need people to help them. They get Charlie horses like crazy, even though they don't have that. There's a lot of pain.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Jesus asks him, do you want to get well? Mm-hmm. Wow, what a question.
Yeah.
You know, do you want to get well? But the fact of the matter is, some people in these conditions don't want to get well because they're beggars. And they've accustomed themselves to this life.
Yeah.
Do you want to get well? I always think that's a fascinating question. Later on, I think we'll do a miracle of a blind person. Do you want to see? You know, I mean, do you want to?
Yeah.
Right.
And some of them, they just are hopeless. They go, there's no way I'm going to get well. They've kind of come to the conclusion that this is where I'm at and woe is me, and it's not going to get better.
It's not going to get better.
You know, one thing I saw is the form of the word healed that Jesus uses here seems to indicate not a gradual healing, but do you want to be healed, like an instantaneous type of healing, which I thought was interesting, because the guy probably wouldn't have been thinking that way, you know, of like an instantaneous, but yeah, of course I want to be healed. It'd be great if I, you know, over time got better, if he thought that.
And so there was this pool at Bethesda that is supposedly when the waters were stirred by an angel, and I have to believe, now there's two ways of looking at this, that this was actually a thing that God had mercy, you know, and showed, or it could have been a Greek cultic place, you know, not really of God, and right. Yet, you know, we have today Lourdes in Our Lady of Lourdes and near Paris, you know, and people get supposedly healed, and
if they go in the water, is that?
No, I don't know about that, but I mean, there are these Catholic sites that believe that Mary is there, you know, and there's healing done. There's actually records of some miracles happening in those areas, you know, and but I'm of the opinion that this was more a hopeful idea that, but if there were some healings or someone was healed because of that, well, that's amazing, and this is when all the people were there. They wanted to get into the water when it was stirred.
Right. And the guy, you know, his response when Jesus says, do you want to be healed? It kind of comes across as that hopeless, like there's no way, because he kind of, you know, he says, well, no one can really throw me in the pool. Really, if I just had someone to help me, like he gets at it, well, there's nobody to put me in the water. And it seems to indicate that he believes in the water being stirred up, that it could heal him.
Right.
Versus like Jesus. So there's really no faith in Jesus at this point. No. Yet the beauty is of what happens later.
Yeah.
You know?
So Jesus looks for him and then says, get up and take your bedding and walk. Right?
Yeah.
So he didn't ask him to attempt to walk. He said, just get up and walk. And he didn't recover his strength by degrees. Mm-hmm. He didn't just stagger. So, I mean, if you see this, it would have been amazing. I mean, the man could get up and walk. Atrophied legs gone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this would have been incredible, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Impossible, and yet possible.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, the three statements: get up, take up your bed, and walk. Mm-hmm. And the effects are instantaneous.
Instantaneous.
You know, there's at once the man was healed, just at once. So 38 years in infirmity, just like that, gone. And I picture like in the morning, somebody saw this guy laying over there at Bethesda. And they saw him. And then later, he's got his mat. Yeah. He's walking somewhere, kind of joyful. Yeah. And they go, hey, Joe, is that Joe? You know, I mean, like this shock of he's never walked. I've lived here for 40 years. I've never seen this guy walk. What happened, you know?
And those healed by Christ's word then are ruled by Christ's word, you know. I mean, he does. He picks up the mat. Of course, this would be a problem.
Yes.
Because it was the Sabbath day.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So Jesus said, get him, pick up your mat. And once the man was cured, he picked up his mat and walked. The day on which this took place was a Sabbath. And so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, it is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat. But he replied, the man who made me well said to me, pick up your mat and walk. Yeah. And they asked him, who was this? And he didn't know, right?
Right.
Not lawful. The only time you could do something on the Sabbath like this, like work, carrying your mat, would be out of complete necessity or mercy,
right.
A situation that just required it. Was Jesus telling him to go against the Sabbath? No. I don't believe he was. I think Jesus respected the Sabbath rules. But this was to give glory to God, and it was a merciful thing.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, and God is over the Sabbath.
Right.
And it wasn't intended as a law for us, but it was intended as a blessing for us to rest and to have. And so the fact that he's over it is saying, like, look, this guy's walking. And it was probably just one of those things that had to happen because it incited the Jews. They were fixing to get him, now. And it starts that whole process. And
is it a sin to do good on the Sabbath?
Yeah.
And that's what Jesus would have said.
Yeah.
And they were hypocrites about this.
Oh, absolutely.
About these laws. If they had a valuable animal that fell into a well or something, they would have picked him up on the Sabbath. And yet here's one of God's children, a human being. And but I think it's amazing that this man didn't immediately try to determine who did this.
That is because you would think I've got to get this guy's name. I've got to figure out. I got to tell everybody about him in it.
But Jesus slips away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He slips away. Yeah. Now, why did he do that?
Yeah, maybe it wasn't his time. Yet. So.
Yeah. Right. There's so many things you're not told in the Bible,
No.
Why did Jesus slip away? It was kind of strange. But then Jesus finds him. And where would you expect to find this man?
Yeah.
In the temple, giving thanks to God.
Yeah.
For 38 years, he was not allowed to go to the temple.
Right.
If you were infirm, paralyzed like this, you were not allowed.
Shut out.
You were shut out of the temple. And but there he would be. Going back a little bit, I wonder too about this. If people were actually healed at this pool, mm-hmm. wouldn't they? Those who had received mercy, wouldn't they go back there to try to help people to get into the pool?
You would think they would.
At least this man goes to the temple and I know he's there to be thanking God.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beauty of, I think, this whole miracle is beforehand, it was pretty clear. He seemed to indicate, I've got to get in the water, but I can't because nobody's there to help me. And even if there was somebody to help me, somebody would go in before me and they'd ruin it.
Right.
And now he's found in the temple, which shows you that he is thanking God and he is very grateful and there is faith in him.
So it's not just a magical thing that's happening. He knows that it's God that provided him. So Jesus finds him. So the Jews asked, who was this fellow who told you to do this? And the man who was healed had no idea and who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd that was there. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning or something worse may happen to you."
Yeah.
The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well.
Yeah.
Okay. What does this mean? See, you're well. Sin no more. Something worse will happen to you. Well, I would say this. What this means is that our lives of sin can mar us physically.
Mm-hmm.
They can. But worse yet, they can cause us spiritual harm and damage, much worse than the paralysis.
Right. Eternal damage.
Right.
And yeah.
I think it would be wrong to assume about this, though, that a certain sin will bring certain kind of physical illness or something like that. Because what sin are you going to pick?
Yeah.
Of all the sins.
Yeah, I mean, there's consequences of our sin, and for each person that could be different.
Right.
There's not a set consequence for a certain sin. It appears to me when Jesus is talking here and basically saying to sin no more, it's kind of he's absolving his sin. To me, it's a forgiveness of sins, and him telling, turn away from your sin and turn towards me. That's the way I see this here. Go sin no more. I'm here who's forgiven you. And not only have I healed you physically, I've healed you spiritually, or I'm about to, because I'm going to go to the cross.
Right.
That may be a little too in depth of it there. But.
Yeah. I just think that Jesus never dealt with sin lightly. Mm-mm. And when he says, stop sinning, was there a reason he was paralyzed? I mean, we can do crazy things with sinful things that really do hurt our body. I mean, you get in a car and you've been drinking and you're drunk or you're high or something like that, and you have an auto accident. Yeah. I mean, this is the result of sin. I don't know about this man. Maybe Jesus knew more, perceived more about his life. But he's saying, you got another chance at being well. Mm-hmm. Now, don't go back to that life that you lived that caused you physical damage, perhaps, and we're guessing here a little bit, but also impaired you spiritually, impaired your relationship with God, because you did things that were against God. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, Jesus knew that we all have this problem of sin. Mm-hmm. And he would go on to die for us and give us forgiveness of our sins. But I think he would still say, fight sin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Don't let sin rule in your body. You should be dead to sin because of the great mercy you have received.
Right. Because if not, it cripples us.
Right.
And yeah.
It cripples us. Yeah. It maims us.
Yeah.
It maims us. It paralyzes us spiritually.
Absolutely.
Right.
It does.
It maims us.
It does.
Spiritually.
It does. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, it's a wonderful miracle.
It is.
And I think, again, like all the miracles, it has a great meaning for you and me. We can see that the Lord wants us to be whole. There comes a day when there will be no infirmities, right. no paralysis. And yet, as we live in this world, there's a battle going on.
Yeah.
And we want very much to live the way that the Lord wants us to live. Right. So until next time.
Yeah. We'll see you next week for Wednesday Wanderings.
Yes. God bless. Bye-bye.